Wait, what? God, what do you want me to? You are God's children. You are children of God. You are God's children. You are children of God. It's been said that you can only connect the dots in hindsight, never when moving forward. That I can definitely attest to. You see, in my early years of childhood, there was a reoccurring message from my mother that led me and my sibling to the doors of the church. She would say, "You're going to church this Sunday. Unless you are sick or we can't get a ride, you are going to church." So, naturally, there was no debate about that. Not only did my sibling and I attend church, but we participated in just about every event, from memorizing poems, Bible verses, and parts for children, to young adult plays way into our teens. Or should I say, my teens. You'd never understand the importance of each verse you've memorized until the verse you've memorized materialized in the adult world. "This young man is going to be a preacher," said the assistant pastor of a humble church we were attending. Now, what do you say in response to that? What do you think in response to that? I couldn't even think of a profession or a career when asked what I planned to do after high school. How could I agree or disagree with that statement? I was in my teens when the declaration was made, and I'm in my 40s, and I still haven't applied to seminary. I've gone in and out of my church home for some time now, and by some people's standards, my entering the ministry at this age is, well, I'd hate to say it, but a bit late. Until I heard a statement by a well-known actor who has touched millions and millions of people in his profession state that when he was at a young age, an older woman saw him and prophesied his ministry. She called his career in acting ministry. When looked at that way, God's calling on your life and your willingness to submit to it and go forth in it is your ministry. In this sense, he too ministers to millions of people throughout his career. Now that I look back at some of the events that have transpired in my life, I too have ministered to many. Many of the outrageous events I've experienced at an early age and onward are testaments to that ministry. See, at the age of 15, I visited my father at his home down south. There weren't many moments that I could remember with us together since he and my mother split, but there are those select times that will forever be implanted in my soul. I remember the moment I received a phone call from him saying that he wanted to see me sometime that summer. He would often stop by unexpectedly at our house every blue moon, so the phone call wasn't unusual. I met with him, and we had conversations that lasted so long that the night would become day again. And out of all of the conversations we had, I remember him mentioning a dream he had. He said that he dreamt that he was in a wooded area, like a forest, and in the middle of his drifting, he stopped. When he stopped, he said a voice then he believed to be God spoke to him, and as he spoke to him, he touched him on the crown of his head in reassurance. He said that he felt it was symbolic to him not falling completely out of favor with God. As my father told this story, I just remembered seeing a silver chain and medallion of a saint around his neck. Now, unfortunately, I don't remember which saint it was, but I do believe that it was a medallion with the saint on it. And for some reason, that summer visit did feel like the visits I had with him before, yet it was slightly different. Besides me being older in age and thought, my father seemed to have felt the need to resolve any outstanding issues we had between us. I also remembered him saying to me that he believed that the relationship he had with he and my mother was interrupted by demons. He then asked me what I thought about demonic energy. Now, this question didn't seem like the previous question, nor did it seem like the last question we had. It felt like he was, tiptoeing to see if I was ready for him to build on a conversation, or if it would be the last he would speak on it. So I said, I believe that anything a person believes in will come into existence. I said, like most 15-year-olds who are confident in their knowledge of life, I don't believe in demons. My father took that as a hint and then changed the conversation. Little did I know was that just like God believes in you, so does his adversary. I later realized that our test of faith in God and goodness will always be a part of transition and growth. As the time I spent with him was coming to an end, there were talks of me visiting him the next summer. But eerily, when we hugged right before I was departing back home, somehow I knew that would be the last time I would see him. Around Christmas time that year, he passed away. There's something about the dream he told me about that sounded somewhat familiar. You see, the dream I had with my grandmother many years after the visit with my father also took place in an area much like a forest. The dream with my grandmother took place at a time in my life where I was transitioning from the house I grew up in to the home my wife and I acquired. What's interesting is the time during my transition from my old home. During my packing, I ventured underneath the stairs and found something shiny. Now see, that silver shiny object looked like a silver coin, but to my surprise, it was a silver medallion with a saint on it. Of all the years I lived in that home, the medallion was never visible until I was leaving it. Now, I don't pretend to know all God has planned for my life in advance, but the reoccurring message does seem to be that whatever time in my life that initiates transition, he too is there. Fear not, for I am with you. As I traveled by bus along with my cousin back home after the visit, my cousin's stop was earlier than mine, and so she gave me instruction to stay on and get off at New York Penn Station. A friend of my mother was going to meet me there in order to pick me up and take me home. Now, to a kid who was foreign to large cities, it was a bit different than I expected it. By the time I got there, it was late at night, early morning, and the station had a few people waiting inside with myself to leave and outside to come into the station in order to travel. One thing that was unusual to me was a tall, weird-looking guy who just kept staring at me. As he stared, he walked back and forth. He seemed weird because his head was slightly bent. Eyes seemed to have dazed, as if he's there, but then not there. You know what I mean? I mean, it was almost as if he was possessed. Now, I don't know if this dude was on drugs or not, but whatever was going on made me uncomfortable, especially since he kept motioning me to walk over there where he was at. And as I was a bit apprehensive on whether or not I wanted to even walk through the only exit there was for me to meet my ride, which he at the time was patrolling, all of a sudden, an officer came to me and said, "Young man, don't go near the exit without me." He said, "You don't want to go out there by yourself." And just like that, as he walked me out towards safety, the zombie-like creepy dude was gone. I look at the moment as another moment that could have ended up very bad, yet it didn't, because no matter what the circumstance, God always makes a way for you. The officer, to me, was like an angel. He was an angel to a nervous and at the time a lone child who could have had only a total different experience if passing through those gates of the past to the present. It was also confirmation to me to continue to pay it forward. Be an angel to someone, because someone somewhere is being an angel to you.